Hello and welcome to the Essex Boys Murder Case Part 38. Before watching this video, I recommend watching Part 4 onwards on YouTube first, as these videos are all about the key individuals and the murder victims' movements on the day of the 6th of December 1995. A quick mention to the Facebook page called The Real Essex Boys Murder Club. If you're interested, please feel free to join, as there's some great people on there and with a lot of knowledge on this subject. So this is the fifth part of the reconnaissance missions done by Mick Steele, Jack Wooms, Darren Nichols and anyone else a few weeks before and on the day before the triple murders. I'm using phone log evidence, witness statements and Darren Nichols' version of events according to his second statement, as he says he had no prior knowledge the murders were going to take place. In part 1, I discussed how they chose a murder location, a meeting place where they could start their journey on the evening of the murders, and a plan to lure Tucker, Tate and Rolfe to their deaths. In part 2, I discussed how Mick Steele had to be a passenger in the Range Rover to lure them to the chosen murder location so he could not be a shooter when the ambush begins. I discussed how Darren Nichols had the chance to buy a firearm but changed his mind and devised a plan at the last moment to be the getaway driver, which left Jack Wooms, who had access to 2 unlicensed shotguns. I also covered the possibility of them hiring a hitman from the Bowers, who are a notorious Canning Town crime family. In part 3, I discussed how they did a recce a few weeks before the murders. The route they chose being the A12, then driving through Brentwood using the country roads and finding a place where they could stop off and put the fake plates over the original ones. They found a place where Mick Steele could meet the Essex boys and the others could park up close by and wait for the Range Rover to turn up, and when it does, this is their cue to set off to the pre-chosen murder location. They also found a place which had to be further away from the Rettendon Turnpike, where Mick Steele could get the Essex boys to follow him, so this would give time for the others to get in place down the farm track. At this location, being the Hungry Hippo pub car park, Mick Steele would leave his vehicle there and get into the Range Rover and make sure he sat behind the driver, Craig Rolfe, so when they came to a halt at the closed gate down the track, he could get out into open space, head to the gate, so the ambush could take place. The recce would have been timed, so it was possible to carry out the plan to execute Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. In part 4, I discussed how they did a final recce the day before the murders, and I got up to when they arrived at the farm track, and this is where I'm going to carry on from in this video. Now, just before I carry on with Mick Steele, Jack Wooms and Darren Nichols, I want to talk about a witness statement by a Alan Grayson and what he said he saw on the 4th of December. This is 2 days before the actual murders and 1 day before the final recce I am talking about in these videos. Instead of reading Alan Grayson's statement out in full, I'm going to reenact what he did and saw on the 4th. If I do it this way, instead of putting up a screenshot of his statement and reading it for you, then you trying to picture this event happening in your head, I thought this way it would be better for you and for the purposes of this video. So Alan Grayson was driving along the A130, travelling from Chelmsford towards Rayleigh, which is in this direction. Now he says he passed White House Farm, which is on the left just here. There we go, White House Farm. And he said he carried along the A130. Do you know what? I think it's better doing this part of the video this way for you, the viewers. I mean, it's much better than sticking up a statement from Alan Grayson and you trying to visualise it. I mean, why do that when you can just reenact what Alan Grayson said he did, or and what he said he saw on the 4th of December? Now, as he got closer to the farm track, he said he saw a 3 Series BMW which was reversed into the entrance but was hanging partly on the road. Now this caused an articulated lorry which was in front of him to swerve outwards and go round the BMW. Alan Grayson, he also had to do the same. Now as he approached the BMW, he said there were no occupants in the vehicle, and he said it was clean and well polished. Now as he passed the vehicle, he said he saw a man walking down the field from a large house, which would be this field just here. And the big house he's talking about is this place on the hill in the background, which is Rettendon Hall. He said the man was about 20 metres into the field and saw him through some fencing. He made eye contact with him and he looked straight back at him. He recalls driving at around 5 miles per hour at this particular moment. It appeared that he was walking towards the BMW. He noticed he had a pair of binoculars in his hand as he drove past. So who was this suspicious person Alan Grayson saw on the 4th of December, 2 days before the triple murders? What was he doing in this field? And what was he looking at with those binoculars? Was he the hitman hired by Mick Steele and the others to carry out the executions? And he was doing his own recce of the chosen murder location. The description of this man was 5'10" to 5'11" tall, white-skinned European, early to mid-30s, well built and fit looking. The description of this man does not resemble Mick Steele, Jack Wounds, and definitely not Darren Nichols. By the sounds of it, he's been up to the top of the field, right next to Rettendon Hall. Was he looking down at the farm track using his binoculars? If so, was he checking when the gate was locked and the track is last used? Is he looking somewhere to hide down there and the best escape route after he's committed the murders? Has he noticed the gate belonging to Rettendon Hall down there and is thinking of using this as his possible escape route? I tell you what I'll do. I'll find a picture of the gate that I'm talking about, which is owned by Reccies Hall, so you can look for yourself. Before I do, just take note, the A130 is here. The field the suspicious man was seen in is here, to the left, as we look at it now. And Reccies Hall is at the top of the field in the background. So this is the gate I am talking about, and as you can see, there's Reccies Hall at the top of the hill, just here. And just to the right of that is the field that slopes downwards, which leads down to where we have just been on the A130 using Google Maps. So, had this suspicious person, prior to Alan Grayson noticing him, been looking down at the pre-chosen murder location from the top of this hill at Reccies Hall using his binoculars, and noticed this gate, which is not far from the 5-bar gate where the Range Rover will come to a halt. As you're looking at this picture now, the Range Rover will be going right to left to the 5-bar gate, which is just a short distance from here. So if this was the contract killer, was he looking down at the pre-chosen murder location and noticed this gate? Has he decided he'll wait here until he hears the Range Rover coming down the track and can see the headlamps through the trees and bushes, and he's going to climb over the gate and get into place in the bushes to the right of the 5-bar gate? After the executions, was he going to use this gate as his means of a getaway from the murder scene to his car, which will be parked away from this lane? I mean, he works alone and he's not getting in the Passat with the others. On the night of the murder, he's more likely to drive up to the Reccies Turnpike and along the A130 and probably found a place to park up a quarter of a mile or so from the track. Then when he takes out the Essex boys, he needs a quick escape route away from the murder scene and decides this gate would be excellent, as he also will be taking a shortcut to get back to his vehicle, which may have been parked a quarter of a mile or so from the track. Was he the man seen acting suspicious down the road from the track, wearing a balaclava, witnessed by a Joseph Kowalensky at around 8ish, round about when the Essex boys were murdered? If Mick Steele and the others got the Essex boys to the track that night so a hitman could carry out the executions, he's not going to hang around and talk to the people he's just done a job for. I doubt there would have been mobile-to-mobile conversations leading up to the murders between him and the others. One party may have used a payphone box to contact the other's mobile, maybe. According to Darren Nichols, he said Mick Steele didn't trust mobiles and preferred to use payphone boxes. He and Pat Tate often did this. Did the hitman insist that all communication discussed about these upcoming murders would be done at the Peacock Gym owned by the Bowers crime family? Is this where Mick Steele was before midday on the 5th, the day before the murders, to discuss the executions with the contract killer. And when he'll be paid after the Essex boys are taken out of the game. So, getting back to the final recce on the 5th, the day before the murders, we was with Mick Steele and the others at the farm track for their final recce place. The place the executions are going to take place. Now, if you remember from my last video, Mick Steele phoned Darren Nichols at 12:15 PM and Mick Steele phoned Jack Wooms at 1:31 PM. Them calls were the last he made to Darren Nichols and Jack Wooms, and he didn't send or receive any calls all afternoon. In fact, the next contact between any of them is at 6 or 7 PM from Jack Wooms. Now, at 2 or 4 PM, Jack Wooms uses the phone at his workplace to ring his home landline, and he makes no more calls until 6 or 7 PM. Darren Nichols last made a call on his mobile at 3:14 PM that day and never rang out all afternoon. In fact, he receives a call from his home landline at 5:45 PM and 7:16 PM. Then phones Mick Steele's landline at 7:20 PM. So there's a big gap there. So after them early afternoon calls, there's nothing between the 3 all afternoon right up to 6 or 7 PM. Absolutely nothing. Had they met up at Mark's Tea and done one final recce and done one last check of all the key locations before contacting the Essex boys to tell them about an intended drugs drop that will be taking place in a few days, and it's their job to rob them of the shipment of coke when it landed in a specific location, but in fact it was a lie and they were being lured to their deaths. Did Mick Steele and the others arrive in Rettendon on the 5th, sometime after 4 PM, to check the track was okay to use? Did they park up close to the track entrance and stake it out one last time to check if anyone else used the track as the farmer left and went home just up the road after feeding his pheasants? Then the worst thing happens. At 4:39 PM, Jack Woom's mobile pings in the area of Rettendon. He receives a call from his house landline. Is this 4:39 PM call the one that catches him out when the police begin to build a case against him for the murders of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe? Is this the 4:39 PM call the one that puts him in the small village of Rettendon the day before the murders? I think this is the call that caught him out. I mean, the other two didn't send or receive calls on their mobiles around this time. In fact, Darren Nichols, his isn't used until 5:45 PM when he receives a call from his landline. Then the first we see of Mick Steele's is at 6 or 7 PM when he receives a call from Darren Nichols. I mean, these two calls are much later. I mean, I'd say this 4:39 PM call from Jack Wool's landline to his mobile phone is the one that puts him in Rettendon the day before the murders. Okay, so that's it for this particular video today. The next part of these recce videos will be about the possibility of Jack Williams and the others leaving the village of Rettendon after that 4:39 PM call and making it to a payphone box on the A127 near to the Halfway House pub and make that call to Pat Tate's mobile at 5:03 PM. First of all, I'd like to thank the YouTube subscribers. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I don't post my videos on the Facebook group until a week after I've loaded them on here. So you'll get to watch my videos first. And don't forget, you can join the Facebook group, the Real Essex Boys Murder Club. We have over 30,000 members now, and it's growing on a daily basis. There's new posts approved on a daily basis also. All we ask is respect other people's opinions on there, as we all have our own theories on what we think happened that night. And last of all, I'd like to thank the admins who do a great job of keeping the group ticking over. Until next time, take care.